Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video would suggest, we're discussing the notion that it's always darkest before the dawn. And what am I talking? Why would I make this video? This is kind of more one of those op-ed pieces I do from time to time. Well, basically, here recently, especially last week, many of the media outlets that we generally sort of come across in our discussions and making these videos, many of them, it's been pretty somber stuff. Like, just as a for example, we found this via the Thai Visa website, thaivisa.com. It's titled TAT Chief Admits It Could Be 3 years, emphasis in the original, before Thai tourism is back to normal. And they're quoting Tourism of Thailand Governor Yuttasak Supasorn. And this apparently was initially, it appeared from comments in the Bangkok Insight, but it's quoted by Thai Visa. Quoting directly from the article, he said that it would be 2 to 3 years before Thailand's tourism sector was back to anything like normal. He said he expects foreigners to start coming again by mid-year, but not fully. And then, they go into a lot of pretty somber news, and I've seen this across a lot of different news outlets. So it's not just Thai Visa. I'm not sort of pointing them out, but I thought that this interview with the tourism authorities here was noteworthy. People are pretty despondent, and I totally get it, and my thoughts go out to those folks, especially who are in the tourism industry. It's tough. We've got a lot of clients who've been going through a lot, and certainly our hearts and prayers are with them. The situation is not good, but, back in the summer, and I was even guilty of this, I thought things were going to sort of snap back to some level of normality much more quickly than ultimately proved to be the case. If you go back and watch videos from like June, we were talking about, well, by the end of the year, we'll be able to do this and that. Well, that has come and gone, and that has proven to have been a far more overly optimistic assessment than it otherwise should have been. But there's a more fundamental phenomenon going on here, and one could call it what I would call normalcy bias, perhaps compounded by what's often called confirmation bias. And what I'm talking about here is, and not to get too deep into this, I'm no great mass psychological thinker, but what I think we're seeing is when things start looking a certain way, people kind of start presuming that's the way things are just going to be. So if things are going real great, if happy days are rolling along, people kind of presume, well, that's just the way it is. It's happy days from here on. And nothing's really going to change that. And then, unfortunately, events come along and disturb that, and things change. Meanwhile, and I think I'm kind of a natural, I hesitate to say pessimist, but I think part of my profession and part of just the way my outlook works is, I've said that many times on this channel, hope for the best, but plan for the worst. And I've spent a career basically planning for the worst in many circumstances. And so it's actually kind of difficult for me to reverse course because, for years when things were going well, I was sitting there going, well, prepare for a rainy day, and people perhaps said, I was probably being overly pessimistic. And under certain circumstances, I very well that may have been true. But what I'm trying to get across in this video is, yeah, things are not great, especially in the tourism sector. And yes, it's going to take time to dig out of this, but it is always darkest before the dawn. I'm not sure we're at the darkest moment yet, but things always change. The one constant is change. And I just cannot imagine that things could tick along at this pace forever. Now, we could have some more time to wait before things start to really, turn a corner. But I am hopeful, and I think that there's reason to be hopeful, that things will turn a corner sooner rather than later, and we will see things starting to turn around or starting to go in a more positive direction. And hopefully we will see that this calendar year. As they noted in that article I cited, by the end of the year, we're hoping to see some return to tourism. And, we're quite a ways out from that. So that could definitely happen in the amount of time we're looking at as of the making of this video. So we'll keep you updated as things progress. I'm certainly not trying to be, sort of foolishly optimistic, but I think now is the time to sort of reflect on the fact that, where and myself included, we may have been overly optimistic when perhaps a little bit more realism would have called for being more pessimistic back 6, 8 months ago. Perhaps now it's time to kind of shift gears a little bit and say, hey, things can't stay bad forever. Things can and often will, and in fact, it's been proven throughout time. Again, the only constant is change.